Brock Purdy got paid, for better or for worse. There's no doubt that he earned a huge pay raise, but just how much? Well, the answer is $265 million across 5 years, which is a ton. He has well deserved to get a pay raise. There's no doubt about that. He's made back-to-back NFC championships and even played in a Super Bowl, all while on Mr. Irrelevant's salary. It was time to get his bag, but there were some concerns. He performed well and was super reliable, but for one, he isn't the most athletic dude and absolutely had to rely on the pieces around him to succeed. I mean, that's just the reality. But then two, he also didn't really perform very well last year when the 49ers were crushed with injuries and his situation got tougher. There was a real wonder of whether or not that would have killed his new contract situation, but it didn't. He got paid, and his journey to get there was wild and well deserved. It feels like we all knew that at some point Brock Purdy was going to be paid and it was going to be a decent amount of money. And that was exactly the case. He got a 5-year, $265 million deal. That's $53 million per year with $181 million guaranteed. That's an insane pay raise for him, considering he just made $2.6 million over his first 3 years with the Niners. And now he's going to be making more than he did in his first 3 years. Now, it didn't help that Purdy landed in San Francisco, which has the third highest cost of living of any city in the United States, so he was really only making $870,000 a year on his rookie deal, and that's why he was driving a Toyota and literally living with 2 roommates, both 49ers offensive linemen. Frankly, it was probably the right call to save his money until he got a flashy new deal, but maybe now he can live a bit more lavishly after cashing in with the Niners. It was a long time coming, and not exactly a surprise. Purdy obviously wanted to stick around, and even John Lynch said that the talks were headed in the right direction the week of the draft. The Niners really have just gotten used to having to extend their important guys as of late. Nick Bosa got a 5-year, $170 million extension less than 2 years ago. Brandon Ayuk got his bag last year with a 4-year, $120 million extension. And then days after Ayuk got paid, Trent Williams got a reworked 3-year, $82.66 million deal that ended his holdout. Not to mention the George Kittle contract. But of course, quarterback is way more important than any of those positions, and the 49ers have really gotten lucky to not have to shell out a ton of money at the position in a pretty long time. The last time a quarterback was making a ton of money in San Francisco was when Jimmy Garoppolo got a 5-year extension worth $137.5 million back in 2018, the season after he got traded by the Patriots. There were definitely some questions of whether or not Purdy deserved a crazy new deal, especially with him coming off of a struggling season. But the reality is, Purdy has already well proven himself. There's no debate that last season was certainly a down one for Brock Purdy and really the 49ers as a whole. They went 6-11 and missed the playoffs altogether after making it to the Super Bowl and 3 straight NFC championships. It really has been a bit all over the place. In the last 6 years, the 49ers have missed the playoffs twice, lost in the Super Bowl twice, both times to the Chiefs, and made the NFC championship 4 times. Those 2 years that they didn't make the playoffs were pretty much the same situation. In 2020, they went 6-10 because of a bunch of injuries, and that was the case last season, and it definitely hurt Purdy's play, which makes a ton of sense. Christian McCaffrey only played in 4 games because he was dealing with Achilles tendonitis and then suffered a PCL injury. Brandon Ayuk only played in 7 games because of a torn MCL and ACL, and Trent Williams played in 10 games but suffered an ankle injury. George Kittle missed 2 games with a hamstring injury, and then Deebo Samuel, well, you know how Deebo is with injuries. He missed time with a calf injury, rib injury, and also had some pneumonia-like illness. So looking back, it makes a ton of sense for why Purdy had a down year. Most of his top surrounding talent wasn't even on the field with him. He ended up passing for 3,864 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions, and rushed for 323 yards and 5 touchdowns. Now, it was his best year in the pros on the ground simply because he had to try to play hero ball sometimes. He didn't have to do that nearly as often earlier in his time with the Niners, and that's really why he had so much success. That, and he didn't have crazy expectations. Purdy came into the league with literally no expectations, and that's what happens when you're the literal last pick of the draft. he was Mr. Irrelevant, going 262nd overall in the 7th round to the 49ers. Now, he was consistently good at Iowa State and was experienced after starting for 4 years, but he just wasn't an athletic freak. It wasn't some big draft fall or anything, that's just kind of where his value was. But even once the season started, he was the clear third string quarterback and really needed a lot to happen if he was ever going to get any serious playing time. And well, a lot happened. Trey Lance was the week 1 starter, and the Niners hoped that he was the future. He was their 3rd overall pick the year before, and the 49ers gave up 3 first-round picks to get him. And then Lance suffered a broken ankle in week 2. Suddenly, the 49ers were right back to where they had been before, starting with Jimmy Garoppolo. The Niners were still super talented, and it made life pretty easy for whoever was going to be playing quarterback. So even with Lance gone and then Garoppolo playing, they were 8-4 and won 5 straight games, including against the Dolphins in week 13 when Garoppolo then broke his foot. That obviously led to the 49ers to suddenly have to turn to their Mr. Irrelevant rookie quarterback, Brock Purdy. And honestly, I remember at the time that I absolutely thought that the 49ers were going to turn around and pick up a veteran quarterback in the market, but they didn't. Instead, they stuck with Purdy, and it's safe to say that it worked out. The next week, he made his first career start and became the first quarterback to ever beat Tom Brady in their first career start after the 49ers torched the Buccaneers 35-7. Purdy threw for 185 yards, 2 touchdowns, and rushed for 2 touchdowns in the feed. Purdy had a good end of the regular season, and in all, threw for 1,374 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions, and rushed for a touchdown. He suddenly was Mr. Relevant, and even the NFC Rookie of the Month in December and January. It was completely unheard of, and the success and good play on the field only continued into the playoffs. The 49ers beat the Seahawks in the wild card 41-23, and then took down the Cowboys in the divisional round 19-12. He sat at 7-0 through his first 7 starts after being the last pick in the draft. I mean, that's just nuts, but the magic did come to an end, and it really wasn't his fault. Against the Eagles in the NFC Championship, Purdy tore his UCL and could barely throw the ball. It really was a brutal ending to the year and what the 49ers could have ended up being. The Eagles ended up crushing the Niners 31-7 after Josh Johnson came in and suffered a concussion, only to have Purdy come back in and literally was only able to hand off the ball. Luckily, Purdy recovered in time for the 2023 season and got the starting job, beating out Sam Darnold and Trey Lance. And Lance was even traded to the Cowboys. Purdy had a lot to prove. After all, he was just some guy who came in as a rookie in the middle of the season. But the question was, is he the legit starter? And more importantly, was he good enough? And well, he proved himself in year 2. The 49ers had a good year, going 12-5, and Purdy was 12-4 before sitting out of the season finale with nothing to play for. He ended up passing for 4,280 yards, 31 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions, and rushed for 144 yards and 2 touchdowns. It was a very impressive year to say the least, and San Francisco was far from done. The Niners got a first-round bye and then beat the Packers in the divisional round 24-21 after a late game-winning drive that was capped off with a Christian McCaffrey touchdown. The next week, the 49ers had to mount a big comeback as they were down 24-7 at halftime to the Lions, but the Niners rallied from down 17 to beat the Lions 34-31 to go to the Super Bowl. If there were any questions about Purdy and his abilities and potential to lead a good team, those were certainly gone once the Niners got to the Super Bowl. They had to play the big bad Chiefs, who did successfully go back-to-back, but had to beat the 49ers in overtime 25-22. Still, it was a great feat for the Niners and Purdy. It was pretty clear at that point that Purdy could be the long-term guy and even deserve a nice contract, but some of that leverage definitely disappeared last season. With all of the injuries, Purdy's play declined and he wasn't nearly as productive. He passed for 3,864 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions, and again, had to do a bit more rushing, and he really had to play hero ball with 323 yards and 5 touchdowns. He also ended up missing 2 games with a 6-9 record. The Niners definitely had a down year, going 6-11 overall. It was disappointing, but a lot of the key pieces are still in the building, and the Niners had to try to run it back with Purdy. He's played well when he's been in a good situation, and frankly, that may be all the 49ers need from a franchise quarterback as long as Kyle Shanahan is calling the shots. It's definitely going to hurt the cap space, but the reality is, it's hard to find another quarterback better than Brock Purdy.